everyone, I am RHONALYN si ANIN, your spokesperson for today regarding the different communication styles of my home country, none other than Philippines. But before anything else, I would like to give a brief description about my country first. Philippines is an island country of Southeast Asia and the Western Pacific Ocean. It is divided into 3 geographical divisions, which are Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Philippines is one of the well-known countries when it comes to tourist destinations, one of the most blessed countries in terms of location, resources, scenery, and much more. Now, come and join me to learn the different communication styles of the Philippines. When we say communication, communication is a Latin word which means to share. It is the sharing of information between different individuals. It includes the sharing of ideas, concepts, imaginations, behaviors, and written content. There are 2 basic types of communication. We have the verbal communication and non-verbal communication. Verbal communication is any communication that chooses words to share information with others. These words can be both spoken and written. Having a good verbal communication skill can increase the ability of individuals to share ideas, thoughts, and concerns with each other. So this time, I will be discussing the verbal communication in the Philippines. When speaking to those who are older or of higher status, Filipinos tend to use the polite forms of speech. At the end of phrases, sentences, or questions, they will say po to demonstrate disrespect for hierarchy. For example, when conversing with an elder or someone of higher status, one will say salamat po or thank you. Saying po and opo is a distinct Filipino value. It's our way of showing respect to our elders. Calling someone ate is a sign of respect for girls, while kuya is for boys. Most Filipinos call their older brother or sister ate or kuya as a sign of respect. In some families, they get mad whenever they hear younger kids not calling older siblings or relatives ate or kuya. When a younger person does not know how to call their older siblings ate or kuya, they are disrespectful. If you are a Filipino, you must know how to respect people older than you. Why? Because elders say always respect the elders because they know things more than you do. In terms of refusals, since many Filipinos try to save face and avoid hiya in their interactions, many will be overly polite and seldom give a flat no or negative response. When conversing with your Filipino counterpart, try to focus on hints of hesitation. Listen to what they say and also pay close attention to what they don't say. Next, indirect communication. Filipinos often communicate indirectly in order to prevent a loss of face and evoking hiya on either side of an exchange. They tend to avoid interrupting others and more attentive to posture, expression, and tone of voice to draw meaning. A speech is often ambiguous and Filipinos may speak in the passive voice rather than the active to avoid being perceived as speaking harshly. To find the underlying meaning, it is common to check for clarification several times. The next we will discuss is the non-verbal communication. When we say non-verbal communication, it is the transmission of messages or signals through a non-verbal platform such as eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, posture, and the distance between 2 individuals. It includes the use of visual cues such as body language or kinesics, distance or proxemics, and physical environments or appearance, of voice or paralanguage, and of touch or haptics. It can also include the use of time or chronemics, and eye contact and actions of looking while talking and listening, frequency of glances, patterns of fixation, pupil dilation, and blink rate or oculesics. Non-verbal communication in the Philippines. In Filipino culture, the use of body language and hand gestures are very common in daily communication. If you are an expert living in the Philippines, you need to familiarize yourself with these common gestures to avoid any misunderstanding. Here are some common forms of non-verbal communication and what it means in the Philippines. First, we have the mano or pagmamano. Mano is the Spanish word for hand, while po is a Filipino term used as a sign of respect. It is done by taking the hand of the elder and gently tapping it to one's forehead while saying, "Mano po." This is usually done by someone younger to show respect to the elders and as a way of accepting a blessing from them. Mano is also unofficially called blessed by some Filipinos. Next, we have the lip pointing. Instead of lifting a hand or finger or arm, which uses unnecessary energy, Filipinos sometimes use their pouting lips to point at a certain object or direction instead. Many foreigners find this funny and confusing, but this gesture is very common and unique to Filipinos. When you see a Filipino do this, don't confuse it with an invite for a kiss. Next, we have the nodding and raising eyebrows with a smile. This is one way of how Filipinos greet each other in a casual and quick way, acknowledging that you saw that person. This gesture is sometimes followed with a friendly tap in the shoulder if they are within reach. Next, we have the arms extended while lowering the head. These gestures are commonly done when passing in front of two people, talking to each other, or crossing a room when someone's watching a TV, followed by an "excuse me." This gesture is seen as a sign of courtesy and respect. Next, drawing a rectangular or square shape in the air using the hands. This is commonly done by the Filipinos in restaurants when asking for the menu or bill. To get the waiter's attention, Filipinos tend to make a square shape in the air with their hands high in the air to ask for the menu and a rectangular shape for the bill. Silent looks. Usually, when Filipino parents give this fiery eyes silent look to their child, it automatically means that the child should stop whatever he or she is doing. This is one way of Filipino parents to warn or control their children in public without negatively catching many people's attention. Now, let's find out what are the do's and don'ts in Philippines. In do's, observe hierarchical relations determined by age and status. Show an interest into the well-being of your Filipino counterpart's family. In the Philippines, family is an important component in an individual's life. Acknowledge your counterpart's education and English proficiency. Smile when meeting people. Filipinos are renowned for being joyful people who try to show warmth where they can. Lastly, compliment people's efforts and hospitality. For Filipinos, hospitality is an essential component of interaction and they will often go to extreme lengths to be hospitable to their company. Next, the don'ts. Don't approach questions about income, standard of living, or things that would often be considered personal in Australia with sensitivity. Avoid directly criticizing the Philippines as a country. This may not be well received and criticisms from a foreigner may be interpreted as an insult. Do not publicly display signs of anger, raising your voice or shouting in front of those older or superior to you. Lastly, try not to be offended if your Filipino counterpart makes frank comments about people's body shape. Unlike in Australia, it is not considered taboo or rude to make comments such as, "Oh, you've put on weight," or "Do you have a boyfriend or girlfriend?" Such comments are not intended to be hurtful, invasive, or offensive. Next, I will be discussing the etiquette in Philippines. Let's tackle first about the basic etiquette. Filipinos tend to dress modestly, especially when in public. It is expected that the elderly and those of a higher social status are treated with respect. Given large family sizes and typically small living quarters, Filipinos are generally not demanding of privacy.
Within one family, possessions are typically thought to be communal and shared. Thus, it is expected to be open about one's possessions and space. Many Filipinos avoid blasphemy and cursing as it may cause themselves to lose face. Filipinos typically have a relaxed approach towards timekeeping and punctuality. It is common for Filipinos to arrive an hour or 2 hours after the designated time. This is commonly referred to as Filipino time. However, Filipinos will observe punctuality in a formal context such as important business meetings, appointments, or when visiting the doctor. In terms of visiting, do not refer to the woman of the house as hostess, as this has an alternative meaning in the Philippines that is offensive. It is common practice to remove one's shoes before entering someone's home. Try to accept any refreshments offered. Refusing them is considered impolite. If there is a visitor, Filipinos are reluctant to take the last serving of any shared food served at a meal. If someone is eating and someone walks past, many Filipinos will offer the person passing by to stop and eat. However, this is not a literal offer but rather out of respect. In terms of eating, nearly all meals are served with rice. If a meal is not served with rice, it is normally not considered a main meal but rather a snack. Many Filipinos eat with their hands or with a spoon and fork. However, they will often try their best to accommodate for their guests by finding suitable cutlery for their guests. It is considered rude to lean on one's arms when present at the dinner table. Filipinos may allow food to go cold before eating it as they wish to have all the dishes present on the table before serving. In terms of gift-giving, presentation is important, so Filipinos will take considerable effort to make sure their gifts are well presented and wrapped. Filipinos will often put a lot of thought into their gifts and will give sentimental, thoughtful, and practical gifts. Gifts are generally not open to when received. So that's all. I hope you learned a lot from this video. Thank you and God bless.